I mean, I feel good. I even look good. But there's something missing.
Yeah.
Hello. Welcome to Free to Speak. This is your girl, Free, and I have an extra special show. I have said previously that my biggest thing is being transparent and authentic with you guys. And so on this stage, I have three of the most important women in my life. We'll start from right here. This beautiful little girl is my daughter, Elijah. This Sarah Francis Christian. And the beautiful woman next to her is my grandmother, Lily Mae Boykin. And kissing me. And I'm gonna kiss me. And the woman next to her is my mother. You guys call me her mini-me. Her name is Sandy Powell. Welcome you guys to my show, Free to Speak. We all get, everybody gets to speak. So what we're going to do, yesterday was Mother's Day, and so we thought it would be befitting to have a special Mother's Day show for Free to Speak, where we have 4 generations on the stage, and we have 4 different perspectives of life. We're going to talk about motherhood. We're going to talk about trials, tribulations. We're going to talk about those things like multi-generational raising, which in our village, because we still have a village mentality in our household, we have with the great-grands, your great-grands, they have hands on them from every generation, from grandma to grandmother, great-grandma to grandmother to mother. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the challenges I know that me and my mother dealt with just in mother to daughter, and also just transitioning from adulthood, mother-daughter relationships. And so we're going to have those opportunities. I think I'm going to give you guys just a couple of seconds to talk about your little selves and tell me how you feel. You want to start with you, Lala? What you want to say? How old are you?
I'm 6.
6 years old.
I'm 6. My teacher is Carter, and the other thing I like is unicorn marshmallows are my favorite.
Unicorn marshmallows are her favorite. Grandma, what you want to do introducing yourself? I semi-introduced you, but you could formally do it.
Well, the most important thing in my life is you. Well, you and you. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy being with my family. I enjoy everything about y'all.
My grandmother is the mother. How many kids, Grandma?
I had 7.
7 kids. How many boys and girls, Grandma?
3 and 4.
3 boys and 4 girls. So she is heavily of rings in the rearing of children capacity, and more of, we all bow down to that because I have 4 and it's a challenge. So 7, nothing but hats off to you. Hey, Mama. Sandy Powell, your mother. Yes. Daughter of Lily Boykin, grandmother of Elijah, and I love my role in every capacity. I'm going to tell you, too, she is the wife of Prophet Prathan L. Powell, who is the pastor of World Changes Tabernacle, and also the pit master. I have to include this. The pit master in the Emerald's Touch Barbecue. It is what I grew up on, and so it would not be befitting. It would be wrong to not include the Emerald's Touch Barbecue because it brought me up even before it was Emerald's Touch. I just love everything about it, so I have to just put that plug in. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our mother-daughter relationship. So I know for me and my mother, we went through a lot, from, young, around Lala's age, all the way up into adulthood. And so I do see in the later part of our relationship, from me to you, there's more appreciation of your role. Whereas before, I fought it a lot. Right. Did you have those kind of same relationship issues with you and your mother? Like, were you and your mother, did y'all do a lot of battling with each other, like mother and daughter, like we did? Because we did. And I'm going to just say it was a lot of my fault because she's a very wise woman, but sometimes you don't appreciate the wisdom because it's right there with you all the time. Either sometimes somebody will tell me something and my mom will be like, Well, I told you that, but it sounds different, I guess, because it's coming from somebody else. But just like as an adult and having a daughter, you just learn to appreciate that. So did you and grandma have like those kind of dynamics? And what kind of dynamics did y'all have?
Well, I mean, Stanley is different kind of person, you know. She had that.
She's always wise.
I mean, she just was a very special person.
I wasn't very bad with my mom. I didn't really I had my own thoughts. Like I had my own way of doing things. I wanted to do it my way and stuff like that. But I didn't always feel the need to express it to her.
Right.
Like I just let her have her say, and then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do. But I wasn't very, I didn't really come at her like that. That wasn't my way. Right. And I think for me, I talked about it in an episode before, that for me, because of things that had happened that you weren't aware of at the time, it automatically put me on defense all the time. So like someone could be telling me something that's right for me, but because I was always feeling like if you came and said something to me, you were coming for me, it always put me up a defense. And it really just took me just maturing, me getting a little girl of my own that does a lot of what I did. I think Mama, I get, you get several phone calls. Sorry, Ma. Before I even say, hey, Ma, I just called to say I'm sorry. Because she's my daughter. I love her, but she's very articulate. And so she reminds me of kind of that behavior that I did, growing up in my younger teens. That she's doing it at 6. So I call my mom to say I'm sorry, and to pray God's grace and mercy that I don't reap in the world all that I did.
Speak to what you was talking about. Like there were some things that happened in your childhood that were very disturbing.
It was
for a child, molestation,
right?
And so it just created a very angry child, and a child that felt the need to. Because I'm in the home, her dad's in the home, and she's not protected.
Right.
So that can build up in a child a sense of, self-preservation.
Right.
Don't come for me. Don't come.
Unless I sin for you.
Yes. And so angry. And so I didn't really learn about the things that you had gone through, the molestation and stuff like that. Even, down the road, rape.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't learn of those things until you were an adult.
Right.
And so, but, I did have a strong hand when it comes to discipline. And I was no tolerant, even though I was a listener.
Right.
I listened, but then there were just some things we were just not going to do it. But, and a lot of I'll say when you rebelled, you did it behind my back. You wasn't to my face.
I was, and still not.
Still, no.
Fear. I was telling my kids the other day, I was like, somebody made a comment about how they don't want any whoopings or something. I said, bro, I still go to my mother's house and make sure I step it is possible. And I'm 38 with 4 whole kids. Like, don't ever get to the point where you feel like it ain't possible. But what we were talking about, going back to in your home, you also had a grandmother that helped out a lot. Yeah. And I hear about her a lot. You want to talk about her?
Katie Jones. Katie Jones was in the home with Mom and my dad. That was my dad's mother. And
thank God for her.
Thank God for Katie Jones. And my mom, my mom, your grandmother, was a child bride. She was a young girl.
Yeah.
My dad should. But he didn't. He was watching out for this. But not gonna have that no more. But she was really reared with us by Katie Jones. Like a lot of things she was taught as a mother. She was a young girl. She didn't know. So she was raised up with us, and I saw as an early age. Like I just had old.
That's why they call these little mom.
So mama. Katie Jones, little mini me. But I would always see the hurt of my mom. I could see her sadness and stuff like that. And that's why I didn't really give her a whole lot like that, because I could already see she already had a lot going on. I didn't know what it was and what to do with it, but I wasn't going to be a part of the next round of it. So she would say, well, you can wear this. And, my sister T, shout out to T, 'cause she saved me a lot and a lot of things.
I'm her husband enemy.
That's it. You could have been her child. But T was a very, kind of like you. She also had her history that we had no idea about, but she also probably had a lot of anger, and so she probably had shields up. But she was the one that would say, "I'm not gonna wear that. That's not pretty. That's not cute. That's that."
It's in a kind of way.
No, just straight out. I'm not gonna wear that.
Well, the difference is my mom had put us up. I just kind of sit weird, like the guy from White Chicks.
Just make it not
to make it look bad.
But I would see that, and I was gonna make her, because she get frustrated. I don't know what to do. She was this, and then so when she said, "Did you like this?" and I didn't like it, but I didn't want to make her mad or make it, so I would just get something that I really didn't like.
And so Katie, Grandma Kate, which I think is what you guys call her, Grandma Kate, she was very instrumental in you guys' home. And I know in my home, with my 4 children, you, Grandma, and Mom are very instrumental in helping me with my kids, not just my kids, but my brother's kids. Because you had 2, but out those 2, you got 7. 7 grandkids.
Y'all came back and repeated what my mom and
right. Out of my mother's 2 kids, you have 7, and then between you and Dad, there's 10. So out of the 4 kids, there's 10 grandkids. And I think what is so important, what the world is trying to get rid of, and I remember saying these things to myself when I got, when I get older, this is what I'm gonna do. When I get older, I'm gonna have my own, be grown, you can't tell me nothing, because I didn't really like being told anything anyways. But then when I got older, I even had a little bit of that, but when you have kids and life hits you, you appreciate that village mentality. And so I think in the world, we need to get back to that village mentality, because it is so important to the well-being of the child. There are things that I learned from my mother. There are things that I'm still learning from my grandmother. Although we probably go at it, not in a negative way, in a bad way, but we go back and forth.
Y'all got a lot of light.
Yes, I lie.
I told Nicole, this is her future.
It is.
This
Because I tell my kids that, between the 4 of them, they all want multiple kids. And I have to tell, and I've owned it. I'm not your mom. So, you guys can't just be like on a Friday, "Hey, Mom, what you doing?" I'm asleep. So,
don't you show up like that.
Show up at the house. But my mother is we can call her at any given time. And if she knows for a fact that we need her, we can't, my mother wasn't the kind of mother you can just, drop the kids off so you can go party and kick the bobo. But if you needed her to watch the kids or go get the kids, you can get her. But I have home that I probably will be a good mixture of y'all, but more like you. And I think it's just because of the amount of children. It just does something to you.
I mean, when the time for the kid, yes, Mom. So somebody getting sisters.
I know.
We know. You got to own that. And I mean, and the kids are my joy. And I mean, they working there sometimes, but I enjoy that.
Tell me about your, how did you feel about mothering? Because you had 7. So, and I have 4, and it was challenging. My mom had 2, and it was challenging. So I know with 7, and then, another thing I want to talk about, me and my mother and my grandmother, we talk about sometimes that we all experience, some form of molestation or rape or some type of thing being done against our will. And so in that, we still had to be mothers. We still had to be wives. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about too as well, just the challenges of motherhood, because we still have to do our jobs, as mothers. It's almost, we're spent, but we still have to make sure the next generation doesn't carry on that illness. And I think the thing with Lala, she kind of gets it from all 3 angles, because we want to make sure that what has happened to you, my aunts and my cousins, doesn't happen, and what happened to me doesn't happen to our children. So tell me about how challenging that was for you and what you experienced. Like what Mom was saying, you were a child bride, and then you were a child bride. You with no shade to Grandpa, but he was a grown man. You were a child bride, and you were raising children, and did not always have his help. Which, that's what we go back and saying thank you, Grandma Kate, for instilling in what she instilled in the kids, because my mother, according to what other people tell me, is a spitting image of Grandma Kate, which is how I am, why I am the way that I am, and which is why we'll pour into Lala. So tell me how the challenges.
With Kate, I could go to her, she'd be laying in her bed, and I'd go lay outside us, and I'll be talking, because that's where I did the most of my talking to her. Mm-hmm. And the most mother-in-laws, you can't talk to, Brian, and I would talk to her, and I said, please don't tell your kids, because sometimes some mother-in-laws are weird, why was the so and so, but she wasn't like that. She would tell me, she said, it's okay. She said, before I mention it, it'll die in me like a disease. And I could just talk to her, and sometimes I would fall asleep, and she would just spread something, and then she wasn't going to move. She would not move from that spot until I moved, right? And she was, she did all the cooking. Thank God. The woman can make, to me, the woman can make water taste good. Water ain't got no taste.
Older back in the day, like when you come home from school, like at 3 o'clock, dinner is done.
Dinner was done.
At 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. So that lets you know she started that much earlier. Mm-hmm. Like, lunchtime probably started dinner. Yeah. By the time we come home from school, dinner is ready. And so she had that. And I'm going to go back to what you was talking about when you said you could talk to her about even her child.
It is her child.
Mm-hmm. And I can imagine, even though she didn't say anything to him what you said, I bet you she made some checkpoints, guys. I bet she checked, and
she did. And and he respected her because when she would tell him something, like one time we had some friends over, and he used to be like he wanted to be a big man, and take off his shirt and what have it, sit down in front. And she didn't like that. And so she would say, go put some clothes on. And he'd say, okay. But yet still he didn't go. Mm-hmm. And she'd come by him again and says, put some clothes on. The very meek and mild, put some clothes on. Okay, Mom. By the third time, she said, she's coming. She came back with this ruler about like that. Oh, God, she whipped him in front of his friends.
Oh, his kid was born.
So she whipped in front of his wife, all 7 of his, and his friends, his homies. But that to me, that's another element that's missing in today's society. Mother-in-laws who uphold their sons regardless of what they do. If a daughter-in-law, and mom is super supportive as a mother-in-law to my sister-in-law, Bontavia Anderson. But Bontavia Anderson is married to my brother. But Bonnie knows that my mother is a safe place. She can call her, followed by me. And if between me and Mama, Junior knows he is Ferris Jr. at that point, and we coming to get him. Like, it's important in this village as a mother, when you're raising someone's child and you're married to someone's son, that you have a safe place. And it's so super cool that Grandma Kate was that. You didn't have to feel like, if I can't tell her how I'm feeling, because she gonna go back and just make my home a mess, or keep up mess. Just get all the
time. Sometimes to a lot of today's mothers and mother-in-laws, they will uphold their sons in their mess, but not Kate. She did not play that, and she didn't take sides. she would do what she did. She would do all the cooking, and she had to hide the desserts.
Her mom was a sugar tea.
You know what she
I thank God I grew out of that though.
Yeah, you passed it on to me.
Well, all of the grandkids except for a few of them. Jeremiah is probably the only one who probably don't have that real sugary tea. But the rest of them are downhill.
Yes, we did some sugar.
My thing with my grandmother and my mom that I think I admired was their togetherness. That, you know, yeah, when y'all did things, y'all did it together. And then, so we weren't this split up family, divided family. My grandmother got her life and she just lived at our house, but she had her own life. No, she was a part of what mom does today. You know, she's a part of the rearing of the children. She's a part of the care for the children. And I can imagine, you know, in the future that this is what will be carried on, because this is what Katie Jones taught us. You know, he had the house, everybody had a role. Everybody played a role. All the kids had to help with the laundry. She taught, like my grandmother was the one who taught me how to blind stitch. I know some people don't even know that because we got people who do that stuff for us nowadays, but we had to hand hem and hand sew things, and my grandma was the one who taught us how to do those things. Right along with my mom taught us how to sew and do patternless, you know, things like that, sewing. So grandma was a hands-on with her daughter, with a daughter-in-law, like a daughter. She had no girl. She had no girl.
And I'm sure because she knew her son, she knew what you were dealing with too. And that's important. You know, it's super duper important. Mom, you had some challenges. You had 2 kids. You had the least of us all, the least amount of children, but you had some challenges. Kind of talk about some of your challenges as, you know, being a mother in the situation that you were in. For those of you who don't know, I've talked about it before, but my mother and myself and my brother were abused by my biological father. And so I can imagine, you know, I've experienced it as well, raising children, but still trying to save face, because it was important to my mother that me and my brother, especially my brother. Now, I somehow always caught a glimpse of it or was around or something. But I think me and mom very early on, without even sitting and talking about it, knew that we didn't want Junior exposed to certain things. And so I can imagine that being challenging from you, and just kind of wanting to hear you express the challenges of not just being a mother, but being abused and being a wife and a military wife, and trying to transition all of that and still keep smiles on our greedy behind faces. Bratty sometimes.
Well, I'm gonna say this: you guys were good kids. You were always respectful. You were, even though you had a, I would say, even though you had challenge in necessarily with people rubbing you the wrong way, you were a good child. You know, when she was a good child. She was respectful. And I was telling somebody this today, you love to a fault. Literally, you love to a fault. When I say back up, this is not it, you love to a fault. And it's all good. But, and so you guys were ever my challenge. My challenge came from your dad and the hard marriage that we had.
Right.
He was a hard man. I thank God for insight, because I was able to see some of the things, the reason why he was the person that he was. Mm-hmm. But it didn't change the fact that it was a hard marriage. Mm-hmm. And I did try to shield you guys from that. And a lot of times I would, you know, y'all went to bed real early. Remember that?
They went to bed, I almost want to say when the clock broke.
It was 8 It was 8 o'clock, no matter what. Summertime, 8 o'clock. You know, summertime, sun is still up.
And the sun was up. We were in the bed. We used to have friends knock on the window like, hey, y'all coming outside? We was like, bring it's 8 o'clock.
We ain't pajamas. We go away from the window for you get over your clothes up. I'll see you in this house.
Now
popsicle and get out of here. Save yourself. As I'd be pulled up. But anyway, so a lot of that had to do with protecting.
Right.
When he was in a load, which was a lot, I concealed it to the room, to the bedroom.
Right.
I took my heat in private so that you guys would not be a part of it. Even if he got loud, sometimes I would even go into the bathroom hoping that he would, when he follow me into the bathroom or follow me away from you all. And a lot of times I tried to be quiet, trying to make him settle down, but he's there. And he was on a roll, he was just going,
He wasn't going to he got it up off of him. And no matter what that ending result was, he literally would just build himself up.
even if I got quiet.
Even if you got quiet, he's still going to talk about it.
So you're not going to talk now?
So now you're not. Now that's the problem.
Now that's the problem. You're talking too much and then you don't say nothing. Yeah, you're being quiet. Now you're trying to tick me off. No, I'm not just the chesty. No, so I don't know.
But sometimes, like with the dad, he was like not so much physical, but he was more mental abusive, and God knows I stuck it out. But I tell you, I don't know how. I tell you, and a lot of times I sit even now and think, why didn't I leave? But I didn't know how.
And then in you guys' time, not saying it's any different, it is a lot different, but in you guys' time, not trying to make you sound older. I feel like it's a beautiful generation. In your generation, marriage was something that you just think it out to the end. Nowadays I'm like this, and I think my mom has kind of reared me in the last couple of years with this. Is you do all you can do. And don't be concerned with, what other folks got to say. You just make sure that you're moving in the way that God says. So I know a couple of episodes before I had made a comment about, I'm in my third marriage. But that comfortability came from my mother kind of teaching me, hold your head up. You don't have to feel ashamed, because in my mind, I did not want to be like my mother. I did not want to be in a situation that I knew was wrong, or not knew it was wrong, but that was going sour, and being abused and being cheated on, and still having to raise children by myself, and then just stick it out just as I stuck it out for 20 plus years. Like that's no award to me, a reward. Or my grandmother who stuck it out until my grandpa passed. There's no reward for that, because there's a lot of mental things that myself, my mother, my grandmother have to deal with in 2023, because we dealt with stuff longer than what we should have. So
and a lot of times because we're just trying to keep mouths off.
Right.
You don't want people talking or saying anything because everyone's, thought your dad was water. And that and this is the thing, I won't take this from him. He had a lot of great qualities.
He did.
But he was just a very violent man.
He was.
He was a hard worker. He was, protector. He wasn't an over-the-top provider. He
did just enough for it to be known.
Right.
He did something.
Like, he wasn't the good money manager, so he just missed it with your dad. Yeah,
I always said that each one of my children, my girls, that each one of their husbands had something containing to your dad. So each one of them, they had
some trait
of what your dad was not. And I used to look at her sometimes, but I had to just walk with her. I had to walk a lot, and
I recognized that our dad wasn't, like when I got old enough, I even offered my mom an escape route. I'm like, Mom, because she would call me, because I was still able to hear my father's flaws and still love it.
Right.
And so I would just hear my mom, she had complaints and sadness and stuff like that. And so I just said, well, Mom, you don't have to stay. I mean, you don't have to live like this. My baby said, y'all,
I'm not talking to me. This is the important part. Like, this is why I do Free to Speak, because as unscripted as we are, and right now, my daughter is just my daughter. She's just unscripted. So what I'm going to do is see if there's something that you want to talk about while, do you want to say it real quick, or you want to step away and then we'll just finish our conversation? You want to do that? Well, why don't you go take a break? We'll just let you take a break, okay?
Go take a break.
You want to take a break? Huh? Yes, because you said, she had some stuff she had to go take it.
Okay. Well, tell her when I said hello. Go ahead.
Go down this way. That's the whole point. This is what I love about Free to Speak. It's not,
You don't have to be scripted.
it's just what it is. Go ahead, Mama.
But I would say that I offered Mom a way out, and I told her, well, Mom, if you want, and I was single, it was just me, and I said, and of course the kids, and I said, well, Mom, if you want, you're welcome to come and live with me. You don't have to stay in a marriage or that you are being cheated on a constant basis. You're not provided for properly. She used to always have this little saying, if I'm gonna do bad, I can do bad by myself. And I want her to walk that out.
Yeah.
Like, if you say it, but
And this was after you and Dad's divorce, which I can say that after my dad's divorce is when I started. Well, no. Probably a little bit before is when I saw your voice and this Sandy Powell that y'all know and love today. She was a little bit more angrier then, but she had to get her voice back.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I lost my voice in my marriage to your father early on. I was 20, and immediately, like early on in the marriage, he established law and order as to how it was going to be. With physical violence, though.
right.
And but I went into the marriage pregnant with you, so I felt trapped.
Right.
I didn't have any training or any. Katie Jones wasn't around. Well, at the age where you start talking about, if you got pregnant, because she passed away when I was 10, so we didn't get that type of training.
Right.
So early on, all I knew was what my mother demonstrated. You in a marriage, you stay.
You stick it out.
Right. So that's what I felt trapped. And so early on, my voice got snatched from me. Like my mom, my mom had a voice to a point, but when my dad rose up, I could see my mother shrink, diminish, and she knew then not to say anything. And it wasn't that it was a lot of physical. She probably did have some from what our conversation was about, but not a lot. But he mentally diminished her.
Right.
And it was probably before that.
What's interesting, though, is that Dad had this physical thing with you, but literally taught me to not let some other man do so for me, the flip side of it was, if you tried to approach me in a way, I'm squaring up with you. My daddy trained me. That's how, my dad beat my mom and beat us, but then would come back and be like, Princess, because he called me Princess, don't ever let no man, I'm not going to say what he said, but don't ever let no man, feel like he can come talk to you any kind of way or treat you any kind of way. And if you do, you basically go toe to toe. So that's how my dad brought me up when it comes down to dealing with men. And so you got that coupled with what had me being molested and raped. So you got this breeding ground of just, I'm ready for whatever, whenever. And I have had exes or people that I've been with that tried to rear up, and they can tell you, when I saw it, look, this what we're doing. Okay. It's because that's how I just found it interesting that although he was abusive to you and beat on you and beat on me, the sick part of it, he was like, but don't let nobody else do this to you. Like that,
Because he knew it was bad, I think.
Yeah.
Just like my dad. I think my dad knew it was bad because he treated our mother in a way, but made my brothers vow to protect us from others. Like, don't let nobody mess with your sisters. Don't let anybody mistreat your sister. Don't let anybody. So he taught them to protect us at all costs while he abused our mom.
Right.
So it's kind of I think that's their awareness. They know that what they're doing is not good because they now can teach and speak to how it should not be.
Right.
And then not only that, like I came from a home of abuse.
Right.
My dad was very abusive to my mom. And he would do it, and then you call the police, and he'd just get missing, and didn't nobody know where he was at. Right. And and my mom used to, when he would do that, she would leave him, and he would go to jail, sometimes. But when he get out, she was gonna take him right back, until it was just crazy, And I didn't know and I didn't know whether to stay. And I think a lot of times I married your dad to get out of that situation, It's just, oh God, it's just hard to explain what I was feeling, 'cause I felt a lot of different emotions back then, And, well, Kate was like my saving grace. She just, I love that lady, Lord God. I love that lady. That's my best friend. My best friend. Kate Jones.
I wish I had met Grandma Hattie, because I met Grandma Gladys,
Yeah.
and I was scared.
She was a whole different time.
Then I got a grandma. Glad different kinds of help.
Yes, different times though. But I think it's kind of where a lot of us got our little spicy, what you ain't finna do.
Because she would tell you, my mom, she would tell you what she felt.
Off of nobody.
And when she didn't leave my dad, she would tell you what she felt. Didn't care what the consequences of it was. And I seen her throw hot coffee on one of it.
She didn't take no junk.
She did.
And she had her own made up mind about things. And grass didn't grow under her feet.
Right.
So she was like this.
Who's it with it?
Yeah. She was like she asked me to come live with her when I graduated high school. I'm like, I need my rest. I can't come stay with you. I'm 18 years old and I can't keep up. I can't.
Grandma have that.
No, Grandma. Let me sit over here with the old folk.
And she was, even when she was buried, she lived by herself. This one was in a wheelchair. Living by herself.
I don't think she necessarily needed that wheelchair as much as she said.
Oh, yeah, because she had sat in it so long till she had lost all mobility.
Is that right? Oh. But she didn't need it at first.
No, she didn't need it. She, the mama, a lot of things mama did for her. But, that's another show.
But I think what's so interesting, and I'm glad we're all just kind of talking about our stories, that your mother, your mother-in-law, your mother, my mother, we experienced a lot while raising children. And I think that's something to be said. I think we don't give a lot of acknowledgement to that. Because how hard it is to balance. Because I know for me, I've experienced, infidelity with my ex-husbands, and I've experienced mental and physical and financial abuse from my ex-husbands. And I know with one particular marriage, it literally drained the life out of me, where if it wasn't for my village, my kids would not have had me as a mother to be able to do for, because it took everything out of me to just get by my day. I remember Mom, like, us having to bring you loads of laundry to wash. And Grandma, she enjoys, if y'all don't know, my grandma literally, she loves doing laundry. Right. And you can hire her and pay her to wash and dry and fold your clothes. So for all of you guys who have issues, oh, grandma trying to get you some business. Yeah. For all of you guys who have issues with, some of us wash dry, but we never fold, grandma enjoys it. So, you pay her by the roll.
She does it and
With ease. Like, it was nothing. And it was me, a grown man, and 4 kids. And so loads of laundry was created in a day, multiple loads in one day. And so I remember having to take like big old trash bags to you guys, several of them, just to kind of keep up, because I was just so not able to do what I need to do. I took all the strength I had to just do work. And I think that's why it's important to be in a village and not, shun away from the village. I think as a Black and brown community, or Black folk, I'm going to say, we try to shun away from the village community because we think that we grow, because I've heard it, I lay down and make these babies, I'm going to take care of it, But what we don't understand is that we're blocking the blessing of making sure that, yes, you raise the next generation, but raise them to do what?
And not only that, but in that isolation, I'm gonna call it isolation.
That's what it is.
A lot can happen that shouldn't happen.
Right.
And when you have a village, so you got all eyes and all hands on deck.
Unbiased opinions.
People who don't have the right motive don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that. People who don't have the right motive, if like some of your ex didn't really care for that, because your motive of why you wanted to isolate her
Right.
was because you wasn't doing right.
And to be truthful, if you're in a relationship, you don't really see that because you're blinded by your trying to either, sometimes it could be love, sometimes I'm in this relationship just trying to make it work. I had got to the point where I was just trying to make the relationship work, not necessarily was all head over heels. It was kind of like a fake it till you make it type of thing. It got to one point. But you have these unbiased eyes that are looking out. If you just open your ears, open your eyes, and pay attention to what they're saying and not take defense. Like, I can remember someone tried to tell me to not listen to what my mother had to say because I'm wrong, I'm my own person. And even me taking heed to that at one point. But what it is between us, I think that it's between, and it's not that you, as a parent or a mother, that you're trying to rule, but somebody who has been there, right,
done that,
right,
recognize it,
right,
it's a red flag,
right.
And if you don't wave the flag and say, hey, this is not normal,
right,
it's not normal, because and this is the main ones who say that don't have a problem though when I'm handing out money though,
right,
don't have a problem with that. But
we family then.
We family then. We all appreciate that then,
on that.
But we don't want to be able to allow wisdom. And whenever you feel like your level is the level and nothing can be poured from a higher level, mm-hmm. or from a person with more wisdom than you have, mm-hmm. to me, that's a scary person already.
Right.
And so I think that that's the part that I used to, mainly hone in on, is that this is too familiar. Right. This looks too familiar. And by the way, and I think I've always given you this, and I know people might think that well, that's the promise, but when we don't rescue our children, why?
Right.
If you were drowning in the ocean, I would come for you.
Right.
If you were hanging off the side of a building, I would come for you.
Right.
So when you're in a bad relationship, a marriage, and someone is abusing you, I'm not supposed to what? Right. I'm supposed to come for you.
Supposed to come. And when they come, as a person that had to be rescued, or just as a person that my family opened their arms when I made a decision to allow to be rescued, because that is something in itself. There was a lot of times that my phone was just, baby, look. You just tell me when. And no, not to anybody, but she still feel like that. But she also feel like that with my brother, and like it's just, that's how she is. Not to anybody, but she's just like, you just let us know. Like, let me know when. Like, it ain't that serious to where if you need me to come in for you, that I'm not going to be available to you. And that's something that I will take and I carry on to Lala, who's missing. carry on to Lala, and I just think that it's good that she's seeing that from all three angles.
Exactly.
Because it becomes a normal.
And not only that, but we would do this for a neighbor. Like if a neighbor next door was being abused, we would call 911 and say, you know what, this lady next door, I hear her, she's being abused. But for some reason, when it comes to family, we need not be involved. That's between them. It's not.
And people need to understand, for those that are in abuse relationships, it requires a lot of patience. Because what seems obvious to you is not obvious to the person in the situation. I know that. My mom knows that. Grandma knows that because we were in it. Family who tries to come and rescue, you have to be patient. Because where you think that person should run for their lives, and that person only sees the good side that person has shown them to kind of help overshadow the bad. You know, those are the things that it requires so much patience, like years and years and years and years.
Because most times the abusee is in love with the abuser. And that's a difficult shift. And then when you get kids involved, this is our family, and we've learned to be normal in
this chaos. Yeah. Right. That for me as a mother is what I struggle with. I was rearing kids in chaos, but having to cloak it out to everyone else who, might have saw it. Oh no, this is just us and our fun-loving personalities or whatever the case. When in actuality, it was chaos, and my mom saw it, my grandma saw it, and even you. I remember us when we were as kids. I think that's what we do as mothers. We try to just make sure our home is managed well. And so when we go out in public, we might have had a knockdown drag out at home, but when we go out, we're not going to display that out. Because I can remember we took a picture as a family. That picture is gorgeous now because it was glamour show. I had makeup and a fresh cut. Yeah. But behind the scenes of that was horrendous.
And it was about our haircuts.
It was about the haircuts and about the makeup. I had a little bit of tinge.
She just put a little dust on her face and a little blush on her cheek just to make the pictures look nice. And that was like, oh my goodness, a major.
But if you look at the picture, you see smiling faces. And I think I kind of learned that from my mother in a kind of, I don't want to say sick kind of way, but just a survival.
Sick kind of way.
In a survival, just kind of smooth it over because we're in public. Well, that's what we do as mothers. We quickly learn the survival, and then we teach our kids survival.
Right.
And I think the biggest thing in this village is we recognize generational curses, and immediately where is it?
The village is that word.
The village is that word. While we're talking about the village, behind the scenes, I have one of my other children, and he's not in the studio while I'm recording. And so while I'm going, right, Grandma Lily is whispering.
We say here
while I'm talking. Get the house. Forgot my train of thought, Grandma.
I was saying that we teach our children from generation to generation how to survive.
How to survive. And then also, it's important for us to recognize those generational curses. I know the one thing that the three of us, if we don't agree on nothing else, we agree that our children, my children, JR's children, PJ Gabriel's children, won't necessarily have to or will not encounter the same generational curses. Like, it stopped with me. Like, it stopped. It won't happen. That we won't overlook things. We sit and have conversations about stuff that don't look right. We could see something like,
and this the thing. You at the point where, like, I'm at the point in the age where I don't care if
it hurts your feelings
about it.
Right.
You can be offended, but if it's the salvaging of the children, then you just be okay.
Because it takes so much for the children and
to recover.
I'm still recovering.
Yeah.
Grandma's still,
and you're 80 years old.
Grandma's 80. 80's what? 80 what?
Really win.
be 81 next month, and she's still recovering. I'm 30, just turned 38, recovering. Mom and 60 and recovering in some aspects. It's something that you know how difficult it is, and so you don't want your children to have to go through. I don't want my daughter to be 80 and still having to recover from things that happened to her when she was a child. And so I think ultimately this is kind of what I wanted to share, with the, as mothers and grandmas, ups and downs of it. And then the importance of just, I call it multi-generational raising, where you have multiple, I think you have other cultures. Like this is their life. This is what they do. This is what they do.
And I think it's one culture, I'm not sure who it is, but they literally just build a house on top of the family's house.
And now, before, I was cool where you just have now, please, I want second level. Second level, for us, we might want to be on that bottom level because so many of us, and y'all really don't do a whole bunch of, running around, but, my kids still sleep. I put us on the bottom.
And I think that's why I'm really, I understand some people venture off and, live their lives in their way that they do. But honestly, this is just my heart. I think that this is part of the demise too, sometimes to family, is long distancing, not having that village to be a support to you, to help to, keep not just family together, but the family treasures for history. Because we just now recently, like a couple of days ago, me and Mom was talking about Katie Jones's biological mother, because we found out, before that, Katie Jones was reared by her stepmother and her biological father. But Katie Jones' mother's side, we didn't have any about who they are.
Because her mom died and she was 5.
Right.
And so her dad got married and had a whole lot of children, But
so she was raised by her husband, her father's wife, and him. But her mother and her family, we didn't have a clue. And then we got a puzzle piece the other day.
Oh, wow.
Where my grandmother's mother's side and my father was cousins, and so we were able to link someone to my grandmother's mother side of the family. And so I'm be digging in that hole because I'm just
interested.
I want them.
Right.
I want them because they're a part of me, whether I know them or not. And this is the thing about family. We're a part of each other.
Right.
You and me, we all, and that's the only reason why, Bonnie, you're not on the show. Because other than that, baby, be right.
Yes, you sure.
We're talking from womb to womb to womb.
Right.
And so, me coming from my mother, then birthing you, then you birthing Lala, that connection is important.
It is. And I with our family, between me, my grandmother, and my mother, it's important to have those hard conversations. We have a lot of conversation. We have a lot of hard conversations just about our past, because I think, sometimes in families, mothers didn't necessarily handle their own personal issue, right? So they distance themselves from their children while their children kind of raise themselves, because I can hear that while we're talking. People say, well, they taught each other and, her mother was good to her, But in those instances, Mom, where you have realized that you didn't do it right, because me and my mom have had those conversations where I didn't even pick up on it, but my mother recognized, baby girl, I didn't do this right, and I'm sorry. Sometimes we don't understand that in mothering and mother and daughter relationships, just apologizing will make a difference. It's a difference. That's daughter from a mother to a daughter, because you don't know what the daughter is holding on to, what the issues that is causing, like traumatic issues that's causing her mental anguish, to where she's not able to do for her children like she needs to. And sometimes that's just a matter of just saying, daughter, I'm sorry. And let the daughter decide if it's a big deal or not. Because mama has apologized to me for things. I'm like, Mama, yeah, look, we all survived. And so, hey,
I think that sometimes you don't recognize. Oh, I recognize it, but you may have been saying, "Well, between you and Dad, yeah, you know, he was a never, so we can handle that." But it didn't make it didn't make it right.
right.
Even though it was a lesser what you consider of the two evils, I recognize I could have done it better.
Right.
I recognize that and this is the thing, even if you mentally may not have been capable, once you recognize it, you do have to come back and acknowledge
That's right.
that it could have been done.
Right.
I should have done this, but you know, and whatever the reason is, and I said apology, you can't make excuses for the error. All you can do is explain why it was
What your thought process was at the time. When I talk to my children, I apologize to my children on anytime I jack up something. And we have those conversations, like especially while I'm cooking or something, I'll call them to me and sit down and say, let's have a family meeting. Let's talk. Let's discuss what's going on. Let me tell you why Mama said what she said, or let me tell you what Mama thought process was at the time, or something like that. Like I put it out there where those family conversations are normal. That's what you have to do as a family or as a mother-daughter relationship. Sometimes if you've done it wrong, it's never too late to make it right.
Right.
Because children are always looking for the approval and the love from their parents.
Yes.
So even a child that's 45 years old, if your 70 or 80-year-old mother comes and says, baby girl, baby boy, I'm sorry, without even, sometimes you don't even have to rehash it. Sometimes it's not even necessary. Just you recognizing it, just putting it, like my mother, I never had to fish what she was apologizing for. She came straight to it. This baby, you remember so-and-so? Well, I want to apologize. My mind was in this thought process doing this thing, and that's why I did and said what I did and said.
Right.
And when someone does that, you have no choice but to accept that. And for a child, it just means the world. Like, I might not have understood why you apologizing. It may not, like you said, it's the lesser of two evils. Right. But it did something for me as a relationship building with you.
Exactly.
Where I felt like, my mom adult taught out, I used to say, well, they're perfect. Like, never make no mistake. I said it quietly in my own apartment. Until I was everything trying. But that was, my whole, we talked about it before. We talked about anger of parents, just I always felt like people were coming for me. But at the end of the day, I knew that when my mom apologized to me or, had enough as an adult to tell her adult child that I'm sorry for that, that helped me, relax a little bit. And we were able to kind of work through just my mental issues, recognizing what those were, which kind of softened mom up, to some things, because she had to do some, research on what is my daughter going through, because she's doing A, B, C, D. And when she realized, I remember her calling me, like, baby girl, I said so-and-so and so-and-so. And I was so sorry because I did not realize that you were just struggling, trying to keep up with. And I was like, I think that's when I cried. I was like, yeah, where'd you out? Like,
Yeah.
We have those hard conversations. We talk all the time.
But sometimes, even when I think of something come across my mind that I might have not done quite right, and I come to them and that, I think that I didn't do quite right. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I didn't mean no.
I didn't.
I
didn't know. I was just doing what I thought was right.
Survival mode.
Survival.
And then, and I always thought, even kids, you can say stuff to kids, and you find yourself you're in the wrong, It doesn't bother me to say to even like to Lala, I'm sorry. Granny, think over it, anything, And I had somebody said to me, Dr. Lala, Mom, one thing, when you come quick and say, I'm sorry. And I feel that's the best way to do it, to get it off, just come on out.
Oh, you have mama, she put 3 days on. 3 days, Holy Spirit on. So one time about 3 days. I remember, I'm going to tell this story. So my brother did something, and my mom was trying to get him to realize that what he had done wasn't right. And so he tried to act like, play dumb, like he didn't know what what was going on. So Mom said, no problem. 3A. 3A is God's gonna show you what I'm talking about. Holy Spirit gonna show you what I'm talking about. So he couldn't go to sleep. And so he came to Mama, take it off me like it was I got some food on a witch or something.
That part right there, the baby don't get out of my room.
Get out of the room. But it's one of those things like you just, as a mother, as a daughter, as a granddaughter, I've learned to value and appreciate that. And that's why I'm glad you guys, came on the show and kind of talked with me and talked to the world about the importance of our relationship. And, I think people see it from the outside and think that it's been, bed of roses. And it hasn't, but it's required maturity on all three parts.
And not only that, but it requires acknowledging that no matter what, we're family.
We're family.
And we're holding on to each other. We don't always see eye to eye. Like me, my mom, and my daughter. We don't see eye to eye. Sometimes we could be in 3 corners of the room and on our position. But that doesn't change that this is my mom, that's my daughter, and I'm what I am to them. We're not going to let each other go. And that's the part that I think is good about, having conversation, but there's no conversation that will rip us apart.
No, we're not disrespectful. Like I just said, like my kids know, like when my mother get to fussing at one of my kids, I'm like one of the kids. I get somewhere and get quiet. And I try to teach my children that this is what you do. When one person gets fussed, you come sit down somewhere.
Or you bring up the history book.
Because you get on the road, they don't sit down and be quiet. They look at me like, Mom, like, no, she tried me. Like, I don't have no parts in that. I think that having this Mother's Day special, and having you guys and even Lala for the show tonight.
She got kicked off the show.
She got kicked off the show and out the studio. That might have heard her a little bit in the background, but that's the thing about Free2Speak. It's a very informal, security, very informal, unscripted show because that's just my life. I'm a very this is just what it is kind of person. And, when you want structure, you can turn into my mama's podcast. I'm gonna plug it. It'll beat me at the round table. She has that structure. She's a woman of wisdom and a woman of seasoned. And so I'm just trying to grow and be like her. Maybe, I get 60 and 70. I'll wear, blazer jackets and suits.
I think you'll always be free.
Potterless.
You'll always be free. I think you'll always be
just kind of, this is what it is. Yeah. And you know what I think it is because I can remember as a child being who I am people were trying to take it from me. Well, not people, the enemy or the devil tried to take it from me in multiple ways. From molestation, being raped, from being abused by my father, verbally, physically, being, verbally and physically and sexually abused in relationships, just every kind of endeavor, it tried to take that voice. And I'm going to talk about this one last thing where I remember my mom in a situation giving me my voice back. And it wasn't, it wasn't necessarily just in that scenario. I felt my voice come in all the way around, in all kinds of scenarios. It was like a rejuvenating in me. And, that's why villages and mothers, you guys are very important to your daughters. And mothers are very important to you. Because if I had held up a wall for so long, I would not have been in the position to receive the breath that you were trying to give me at the time. But it really just opened up my voice all in all parts of my life and just made me just be okay. For real, not okay what people saw, because that's one thing that we learn in surviving. Have a face, And I'm really good at showing you like, yeah, but behind it's a mess.
Yeah.
But you gave me that, my voice. And like I said, it wasn't just in that situation. It was just period. I literally felt like, oh, I'm good either way. Like, and it was good and really legit felt good. And to this day, in 38 years, to have that when it was taken from me at 5, to have that and me being in a position, not because you haven't tried to give it to me before,
Right.
but being in the position of wanting it and it being given and being good with it and holding my head up high. That's why mothers and daughters and grandmothers and great-grandmothers, please be in each other, stay in each other's lives. The world that we live in is challenging. And what the enemy tries to do, because I always say, free to speak, we don't hear and know what God says about the matter. What the enemy is trying to do is trying to divide families by all means. And that's why what we have looks like a unicorn situation, but it's not. It's possible for all families, and it's possible for all walks of life. The thing is that what we individually had to do was stop allowing the enemy to individually sabotage us. And so because we were all connected by the Holy Spirit, we can jail better, because it's not to connect to the Holy Spirit and me out here just freelancing with the devil anymore. We all are connected. When the Holy Spirit is involved, everybody who's of like mind in the Holy Spirit, just like those that kick it with the devil, they all have like mind and they jail with no problem. When you connect with the Holy Spirit for real, you don't have a problem with receiving wisdom. You don't have a problem with receiving criticism. You don't have a problem with receiving best practices. Because my grandma, you'd be best practices all the time. Like, all the time, every other day, if not every day, something, and do better. Something I need to do better. It's a more excellent way to do it. Like, more excellent way to skin a cat. And more than one way to get to 8, and an addition problem. But grandma also has learned, too, right, grandma? Like, you say 4 + 4 is 8. I say 5 + 3 is 8. Grandma was like, okay, 4 + 4 is 8. That's the only equation. But in this relationship, she's learned that also 5 + 3 is 8. 6 + 2 is 8. 7 + 1. Like, she's learned to, am I speaking for you? I know. This relation, she learned to expand. And those things, that's what happens when you have a village mentality. You guys constantly glean from each other, learn from each other, have those hard conversations with each other. And at the end of the day, we all got one thing in mind, and that is the curses that we've experienced will not pass on to our children. And so I want to make sure that you guys don't have anything, because we about to close now. Y'all have, about to close. Y'all have any last final words, just for the Mother Days, special Free to Speak podcast. Keep your eyes on your children, Lily Mae said, Grandma Lily Mae. You, Mom?
And we will not be a part of the scripture that says mothers against daughters,
Right.
daughters against mothers.
Right.
That's the world's way.
That's the world's way.
That's
what we do. We're separate. We're in this world, but we're not of it. And so because we're not of this world, what you are saying amongst us is ordained by the Holy Spirit. And like I said before, you can tell when something is supposed to be done by God, because the enemy fights it on every kind of way that he possibly can. And so I want to thank my grandmother and her beautiful self for being on the show. I want to thank my mother, who has a podcast of her own. It's Meet Me at the Round Table. It comes on Sundays on YouTube. My daughter, who's been kicked out of the studio, Eliza Sarah Christian, thank you for your 2 minutes on the stage.
My love.
And thank you guys for joining us. Again, this is a topic that is near and dear to our hearts. You heard us talk about abuse, domestic violence, mothering, the challenges of being a mother, the challenges of being a husband, being a wife, and holding up and managing a household while doing that. And so in light of Mother's Day being on yesterday, I just felt it would be befitting to have us all on the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions that you guys would like for us, or if you want our mom and grandma to come back, send me an email. My email is free2speak, FTS@gmail.com. That's FREE, the number 2, SPEAK, FTS@gmail.com. You can type in the subject line, you can put question, or if you want to be a co-host and kind of talk about, something that sparked your interest in the conversation that we have, you can put co-host in the subject line. Or if you just want to tell me how much you enjoyed it, you can do that as well. Be sure to follow at Instagram. It's Free2Speak Podcast on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And then, Mama, go ahead and plug your podcast in, Mama.
Oh, I'm good with just being on Free to Speak.
She is at the Round Table on Instagram. Her show comes on Sunday. We a family. We gonna plug each other. Meet me at the Round Table. It comes on Sundays on YouTube, and so you can follow her there as well. We thank you so much for watching. We pray that you were blessed by it. And until next time, remember to be authentic, be whole, and remember to be free to speak. Have a good one. And bye.
Man, I learned in my life to put God over commas, God over drama. Yeah, that's how I became an overcomer. I put that on my